It's really only been 24 days since I stood up there and talked to you guys, and a lot's happened, a lot's gotten done, and very, very, very grateful, to everyone who's allowed us to get to this moment. And so, if you don't mind, just a couple of people I want to thank. Obviously want to thank Trev Alberts and his team. I mean, they've gone out of their way to let us get this done. I want to thank our coaching staff. I want to thank Vince, Ryan, Keith, Taylor, Brittany, Joni, all the people that were here before. They've done a great job of streamlining this process, and all the coaches that I've hired and brought in, I think, have really, really worked hard, and so I'm very grateful for them. And then finally, I want to thank our coaches' wives. In a short amount of time, when people are trying to figure out if they want to send their kids here, they don't have much of a relationship with us, and they're trying to figure out who we are. Our coaches' wives, my wife Julie, and the assistants, coming from all different places across the country, flying in and getting to know people and making sure that they know that what we say is real, that we want to have a family feel, and we want this to be a family, not just a football team. So very grateful for them. The tours were awesome. Our academic staff, our compliance staff, our life skills are second to none in what they do, and I think people believe in what can happen here. So with that, I'll take whatever questions you guys have.
Matt, Sean Callahan with Husker Online. What was just the biggest challenge for you these last 2 weeks to kind of put together over 30 official visitors and kind of get this all set up?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything, to be quite honest. There's a lot of details. There's a lot of things to get organized. The way I want to run official visits is probably different than the way they had, and so making last minute changes to get it the way I think it should be. I thought people bent over backwards. The people at the Kindler, the people at the Embassy Suites, the people at all the restaurants in town. I mean, I think one of the key things for us is to really show off Lincoln, and I think getting them out into the community is important. So there's just a lot of details that had to be worked through that our people worked really hard at. I think the biggest thing is just relationships. They don't really know us, and so how can you get to know someone over 24 days enough that they're willing to come spend the next 4 years of their life here with you. And so that was really probably the biggest challenge, and we were really honest and direct with people, and some kids it was right for, some it wasn't, but in the end I think we got enough guys that really believe in what we believe in.
Matt Rhule. Matt, Brian Christopherson. My name's not Matt Rhule. Brian Christopherson from 24/7. That first week you hit the in-state really hard. Why was that such a big deal to you to start there?
Well, I think you always start at home. The key to long-term success is for every 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grader in the state of Nebraska to grow up, dreaming of playing out here. And so they have to see other kids just like them do that. And so as I went through this process of evaluating this job, if I would be a good fit here, I got to know these players. I watched them, and I wanted the local kids to stay here and play here in Nebraska. So we got a lot of them. A couple we didn't get, but the ones that we got, they came for the right reasons. They wanted to be here, and we can't take everybody, but the ones we got are definitely good enough, and they're going to fight for their university.
Coach Steve Sipple, Husker Online. How do you work to instill that idea that 4th graders, 5th graders dream of playing Nebraska? What can you do on a practical level to instill that?
Win. Honestly, win, do it the right way. I was talking to one of the top 2024 recruits in the country. Obviously, I can't say their name, but top 2024 recruits in the country that is down in Texas, and everyone has a lock to go to one of the schools in Texas. And we're having a conversation, and he's like, "Coach, you don't remember me?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Coach, I came and saw 5 games of yours when I was in 8th grade, and this player who played for you was my cousin, and this play." So to me, the best thing that I can do and our staff can do is that every player that comes here and plays for us leaves here and says, "You know what? That was awesome. I got developed." And they'll go back to their towns and they'll tell people and they'll say, "Hey, you know what? What they're saying is true. It's right." That's the best resume we have. That's our book of business. Is every high school coach says, "Hey, I want my guys to go there and play for that staff because they do things right." And so that, and then win. You grow up and you want your best memories are coming up here and watching big games. And so the way you win though is just kind of handle it day to day. And so we'll get there, but it's important to me that the kids know that that's a possibility. And we're not going to play games and hey, you're good enough for a scholarship, but we really don't want to give you. we're going to give guys scholarships when they're good enough, and we're going to get them here and coach them.
Hey, Coach, Sam McEwen from the Omaha World Herald. How you doing?
Sam.
You guys, I was struck by just the sheer number of players you added on defense in a short amount of time, both the transfers and then the guys out of high school. How important did you feel like it was to get a lot of talented athletes in here, and how much do you think you have to change what you have on your roster to fit the defense you want to run?
So I came into it, number one, saying to myself that the mistake a lot of guys make when they take over a new job is to feel like they have to just go out and rush out and get a bunch of guys. So I was like, don't do that. However, I didn't realize the overwhelming response. A lot of guys that some of these kids that are committed to us, like I've known them since they were in like 7th grade, 8th grade, and they're like, "Oh, Coach, I want to come back with you," and so or get back to you. So that kind of surprised me a little. Not surprised me, but I didn't take that into account. Last time I was doing this, there was a limit on how many NLIs you could send down, how many scholarships you could give. That's not true anymore. And I've always had this belief that, like, I'm not one of those guys who says I need 3 of these, 4 of these. People ask me all the time, how many more do you have? I mean, the guys are going to come. They're going to change their position, and we love to change guys' positions if it's going to help them play in the NFL. So I just try to take the best players. And obviously you need a minimum of certain things. I'm not saying that, but I'm not beholden to that. I like to think creatively, and Evan Cooper on our staff makes me think creatively. And so we try to take the best players possible. In terms of the defense, I'm not sitting here saying we're going to run the 3-3-5 defense. I'm not saying we're going to run this defense. What I loved about Tony is he's creative. And, we had a top 5 defense at Temple, or top 10 defense at Temple, and we were 4-3. And we went to Baylor, and the third year we went to the 3-3-5, and we had a top 5, I think, defense. Forgive me if my numbers are off slightly, but I think you get the gist. And then we got to Carolina, we switched from year 1 to year 2 because Brian Burns was really, really good, and Hassan Reddick was good, and we kind of changed who we are. So we're not going to bring in, hey, this is our defense, and you guys have to fit it. We're going to get the best players possible. We felt like we needed speed on defense, and that's what we tried to recruit.
Andy Kennedy from KUTV, ABC in Omaha. Is there an intangible or something you were looking for in these kids? Obviously, they're all very talented, what they can do on the football field, but is there an overlying characteristic that kind of brings everybody together?
Yeah, I want guys who want to come here for the right reasons. I'm not. I don't want guys who are coming here saying, how big is this NIL deal I'm going to get from these people? I don't want kids coming here saying, I want kids who want to come here to get an education, win at football, and have a chance to go play in the National Football League. People that want to come here and impact the community and make the University of Nebraska campus a better place because of their presence. And so, though that mindset's really, really important to me, I'll be honest, I was blown away with the maturity of a lot of the young men that I've met during this process. I mean, the guys who were committed to the previous staff, you sit down with those guys, and they're grown. They're great families, and they love football. And when I say I'm a developmental coach, it just means that I believe that I want to help guys get better. And so to do that, you have to have players who want that, who want to wake up every day and just work and grind. And so that's all really important to me. If we have the core of our team that's like that, we'll be hard to beat.
Coach Steve Mark with Inside Nebraska. Offensive line, what are your thoughts on it right now, what you have right now, and then the 2023 haul?
Well, let me say 2 things. And hopefully you guys know me. I'll be always really blunt, but always respectful. I'm kind of not bought into the narrative that I hear on the team. I hear from everywhere that the offensive line is the problem. Okay, we're going to have a good offensive line next year, and I like the guys that are in that room already. And I just think you have to have a commitment. We have to have an identity in offense of what we're going to do. When you kind of trying to figure out, hey, are we a throw it team, run it team? What are we? You put those guys in hard positions. And that's why, Marcus came with me to Carolina. I made him be the assistant O-line coach. A lot of guys call plays because they're thinking about the quarterback only, and they're asking offensive linemen to do really hard things. You got to go coach it. And you coach it, it changes your approach. And so we're going to put those guys in a good position that are here. So I'm going to fight for those guys. I like those guys. We're going to try to, we've tried to bring in some depth. And I wanted to bring in a great young group that we can develop and watch them grow. And the previous staff, Coach Frost, they had done a nice job of identifying. I like those players. But we also, we're going to continue to try to look, because I'll never, ever, ever not take a talented offensive or defensive lineman. That's what wins games.
Matt, Mitch Sherman, The Athletic. Back to the in-state players that you signed and what you saw. What did you find? What did you learn about in-state players, about football in the state of Nebraska, about high school coaches in the state of Nebraska during these 3 weeks?
Well, when I first got the job, I called Brock Knudsen, and I said, hey, Matt Rhule, the new head coach, I know this is kind of a shock. Where do you stand? And he was like, Coach, I'm a Husker. I don't care who the head coach is. And I kind of laughed, hoping he'd pet my ego a little bit and tell me he was dying to play for me or something. But, that just really hit me. Like, this is how we'll build this, is with big, physical, tough guys from this region. And so that, how much those guys loved Nebraska, how much it meant to them, to see that helmet, to come on these visits, it struck me. It really gave you a sense of purpose of like, this is important. But also, as I said, going into this, the football's really good, and the football's good in a lot of places. And, we found fast, dynamic athletes, and there's maybe a narrative that, there's not speed. Well, we went and got the fastest player probably one of the fastest players in the nation from right here, and one of the best track athletes in the nation right here. So, we saw good football. The coaches were great. The people were great. But the biggest thing that hit me was how much those guys just really want to play for the University of Nebraska, and they want to be part of a championship team here.
Hey, Matt, you guys signed Jeff Sims, no high school quarterbacks. What can you tell us about Sims and why you chose to bring him in as a transfer?
Yeah, so Jeff Collins was the head coach at Georgia Tech. Jeff and I worked together at Albright College and then at Western Carolina years ago. Jeff replaced me as the head coach at Temple. So I first went to Baylor. I went and visited them, watched them practice. I go to the NFL. I have every Saturday off to watch games. I've watched a ton of Georgia Tech games. And I fell in love with Jeff, just as a player early on. He's dynamic, he's athletic, he's smart, he's big, he's got accuracy, he can throw from the pocket. So when he became available, when he went into the transfer portal, I was already sold on him. And I even had, I even had people in the NFL say, hey, you need to go get this guy. I mean, everyone recognizes he's an NFL talent. And, you get to know him. His personality is elite. I mean, he's a really good person about the right things. His former coaches, they loved him. And so it was easy if it worked out. And, we're grateful that he chose to come here.
Hey, Matt, Luke Mullen from Lincoln Journal-Star. See you recruit in Pennsylvania and Texas. How much did those past relationships really pay off in getting the recruits here?
Yeah, they had done a good job here. Dylan and Riley were already committed, so they had done a good job in those places. For me, obviously, to go down and get Prince Will, I posted the picture of me, eating at his mom's restaurant, which is a great restaurant in Austin, and, having the fufu and the goosey soup and all that. Well, I had done that 4 years ago, recruiting Prince Lee, who then, after I left, came and took a visit to Baylor. So it's a wonderful family, and so those are some of the connections. I mean, I was talking to Prince Will when he was this big, and now he's this big. So, we have a lot of people in Texas that we care about, that we know, that they know how we do things. We'll recruit Texas every year. It'll be an elite priority. Then obviously in the Northeast, you look back at the history of Nebraska, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, those places sent great players here. And we have some connections in Philadelphia. We have some connections in Harrisburg and New Jersey, and we're going to try to take advantage of those.
Back to the offensive line, Coach, what led to your decision to retain Donovan Rolle?
Yeah, so Donovan was trained by Harry Heastand, whose brother-in-law, Pat Flaherty, I worked for at the Giants as the assistant O-line coach. And so when you get into O-line play, there's like three base philosophies, and they're very different. It's like the difference between driving on the right side and the left side of the road, and so I don't want to. They're all great. I don't want to coach people. I don't want an O-line coach that's over here, because I deeply care about what the offensive line looks like. And we interviewed several candidates, and we talked to several guys. And to Donovan's credit, we interviewed him. I said, hey, I'll let you know, he showed up every day to work. He worked. He was, he just kept being there. Half of life is just showing up. And I kind of liked his vibe, and I liked his energy. But most importantly to me, he had been trained in the same system that I'm trained in, and I want us to play that way. And so it was just a natural fit. And he's a great guy. I got a chance to meet his wife. He had a wonderful family, and we're excited.
Coach Lauren Michelson, Channel 8 News here in Lincoln. With getting your staff in order, how reflective have they been of the culture you're looking to instill here in Nebraska? And how helpful with getting all these young men to commit here? Yeah,
I think we asked people in Pennsylvania, we asked people in Florida to send their kids to us. They were here this past weekend, and it was kind of cold, and it's a long way. And I think they looked at Terrence Knighton. They said, man, he just picked his family up, and he just came here to follow Coach Rhule. And they looked at Coop, and they looked at EJ, and all these guys. And I think it sent a great message to them that if they believe in what Matt's doing, that some of them would even leave NFL jobs to come work for him. then, I can trust them as well. And when the staff's all said and done, we'll probably have 7 or 8 former players of mine on the staff in different areas. And that really is really helpful to me because, I think they're stars. It's going to be a young staff. And I've had some people say to me, like, why is the staff so young? Because I'm old, and they make me feel younger. It made me look younger to the guys, more relevant in terms of what's new and what's not. But also, they've seen firsthand how the way that we do things affects lives. It affected their life, hopefully, and they're now going to pour into other people's lives. There's not going to be any celebrity coaches. There's not going to be guys with different agendas. This coach isn't going to say this, and this coach is saying this. We're all going to have one purpose. There's a vision. There's a brand of football that we play, and they all believe it. And every coach, will have. Omar's going to be a star on, social media. Coach Foley's going to go to different. They're all going to be themselves. I want them to all be different. But they better wake up every day saying, you know what, my number one priority is the guys on my team. Everyone spends too much time thinking about recruiting. They don't think enough about the guys on their own team. But those guys on our team, that's our job. And so that's the guys that I have. I'm lucky to have them. I'm really grateful that Trev has allowed me to hire who I want to hire. And but I will say this, the guys on the previous staff, and I want to add something about Donovan, if I may, because I think he needs to be said. I've never, ever in my life asked all the players at their position about their coach and not had one guy say that they don't love him. And even a young man that went into the portal that I've known since I recruited him at Baylor, said to me, Coach, I'll stand on the table for that man. So that meant a lot to me, that it's coming from the players. Even a guy that's leaving is saying, I believe in him. So, but I think just great guys and people that you want to send your kids to play for.
You mentioned also Omar being a star on social media. I know you mentioned it on the radio show this morning, but you've been vocal on social media in a unique way. Can you kind of explain your view on social media as an asset to you as a head coach?
Yeah, so social media for me is this. I don't read it because it's not super flattering when you're the head coach all the time. So I don't read it, but I communicate from it. You know what I mean? And I pay attention to the players on it. I get to know the players as recruits even when they're sophomores. I see what they're about. And but I also can send a message about who we are. You know what I mean? That we're going to be, an old school program with a new school look. You know what I mean? We're going to do things the modern way, but retain old school values. And it's been fun. I mean, but my mom calls me every day and asks me to explain what this emoji means and this emoji means, and that's kind of taken on a life of its own. I have recruits asking me like, hey, can you say this and this? So if recruits are asking me to do it, I'll do it. But it's been fun, and I want to show off Lincoln. I've been going around taking pictures when I can because this is a cool town, and the more people that get here, the more people will see that. You guys know that, but it's part of my job to share it with recruits.
Steve Mark with Inside Nebraska. You mentioned Ed Foley. What does he bring to the program, and especially as special teams coordinator?
Well, I think anytime you have a guy who's been a head coach, it helps. Okay. And anytime you have a guy that's put his son through college, even though Charlie didn't play football, but has had that age young man, that helps. I think anytime you have a guy that's coached the offensive line and coached the tight ends in your program, even though they're not doing that, that helps. And when I left Temple, he stayed and was an elite special teams coordinator for them. I think at one point that one year they scored like 5 different ways on special teams. Players play for him, and came to the NFL with me, so we learned some different things there. Special teams are very different in the NFL than they are in college, but some things that we'll carry forward. And I believe for us, special teams can win us 2 games a year, and Ed will handle that. And I'll be honest with you, that's not really my wheelhouse. Like, I've done it before, but I like to go down with the O-line and D-line. So having Ed run it, I know it's going to be done right. I can oversee, the head coach part of it, but Ed's elite.
Back to the quarterbacks for a second. So transfer quarterbacks have had a lot of success in college football. Four of the last 8 Heismans were won by transfers. So it would be natural for a coach to just pursue transfers on a continual basis. But I assume you're going to recruit 4-year guys. When you look for a 4-year quarterback, a guy out of high school, what do you want that player to be, and how that might be different than somebody you're trying to pick up right away? What traits, or what do you want that player to show that you can develop going forward? Yeah,
and I didn't come in and say, boy, I really want to transfer quarterback. When Jeff came available, I said, I want Jeff. There was, I think there's really good quarterbacks, and I think that's a healthy room. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in that room. I've watched practice tape on some of them. I have to get around them, but there's a lot of good players, and the best player will play with me. I mean, scholarship, walk-on, freshman, senior, none of that matters to me. In terms of recruiting, my history, at the Temple, 4 years as the head coach. P.J. Walker was my quarterback all 4 years. Started game 5 of his freshman year. You get to Baylor, Charlie Brewer goes in game 4 or 5 of his freshman year. He starts for me for 3 years, and we're in the Sugar Bowl. So I'm used to just playing a freshman and letting them ride. So we'll recruit. We're going to continue to recruit quarterbacks in this class. I don't know what will happen. We'll recruit quarterbacks in the future. It's just kind of the new way of the world where you never know if guys are going to leave or not. You're going to have to recruit. But in terms of freshman quarterbacks, I always look for guys who just have it. I know that sounds crazy, but if you feel them when they play, if they're accurate, if they're tough, in college football, if they can pick up first downs with their feet, if the team follows them, if they're winners, you should bring them on. And so to me, the more winners, the better. There was a time when you recruited a bunch of quarterbacks and they sometimes would go play other positions and be NFL players. Now guys transfer usually before that happens. But I'm just trying to find winners and put them on the field.
Can you speak to where you're at in the construction of the staff overall, and if you're moving Marcus to quarterbacks and how that might impact the rest of the offensive side?
Yeah, Marcus will coach the quarterbacks, which he wanted to do from the very beginning, and we kind of started down a different path of it. And then, but I thought he did a great job last year with Spencer, and and he's done it for me before, so that's very natural to us. And then we'll make some other hires here in the coming weeks, as things, probably heading into January 3rd that week. So I get nothing to report specifically on those guys, but, we'll get that done before we start the second recruiting period in January.
I know that first week you also wanted to learn this current roster. What did you kind of get from those conversations with players who are already here?
Just number one, that there's a lot of pride in their university, and a lot of guys that love it here and want to win. Just a lot of conversations about, hey, how are things set up and what can we do to help you guys, do it in a way that you might think is better. But in terms of anything else beyond that, really watching some guys, and just evaluating them. And then after that, really, to me, I just want to start with a blank slate in January and just, I don't care what you've done, show me what you can do moving forward. And so that can be, that should be freeing for everybody where they can just show up and play. One of the hardest things about taking these jobs is all these kids I'm recruiting right now, their parents know me and they sent them to play for me. All the guys that are on the team, sometimes they're like, hey, where do I stand with coach? Every player that's on this team is my guy, and I'm going to coach them all the same. So I'm anxious to get to know them in the spring semester. But we had some really productive conversations, and guys shared a lot with me, and I think that we can really improve the team quickly with those guys.
Just on the QB, did you have some good conversation with Casey Thompson, just sort of about his future as he gets back from an injury and all that?
Yeah, I talked to Casey. Casey's an impressive young man. Obviously, I don't share what I say with guys and the conversations that we have, but he's an impressive young man. He played a lot of good football, and looking forward to him getting healthy and moving forward.
What's your stance when a guy goes in the portal? Are they in there, then can they ever come back? Or is it usually once they enter, are they kind of in the portal?
I don't have a stance. I think every player's different. To me, it's like anything in life. Anytime any of us say, hey, you know what? I'm done with something. You walk away from something. You walk away from buying a house. You walk away from taking a job. You walk away from something. You kind of leave it in other people's fate. And so I think it just kind of depends on the history. I tried to come to this place because they didn't know me when they put themselves in the portal. I would certainly talk to anybody about coming back because they just hadn't been here with me before. I think there's some guys that should go in the portal everywhere. I mean, like they're not going to play and they want to play. I certainly understand that. So. So I only think I talked to 2 or 3 of the guys that went in the portal. But some guys, if they went in and they called me and said, hey, I want to come back, I'd say, I think it's best if you do move on. I just, I think it's important to find out what the dynamics are, what the behavior's been like since they've been here, what the academics are going to, and that's moving forward. I think we'll just take each one on an individual basis. To me, when you make a blanket statement, you kind of have to follow it, and everybody's on their own journey in life, and my job is just to help them. If it's not here, help them get somewhere else.
Coach, I think I heard you correctly. You said you tend to gravitate towards O linemen and D linemen. Why is that? What is it about your background? What is it about your philosophies about football that leads you to that?
Yeah, I just think the team that can control the line of scrimmage, whether it's run the ball and stop the run, or the ability to protect the quarterback and affect the quarterback, those teams win. And so, great quarterbacks usually are what makes teams. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of that comes down to recruiting. I believe that you can develop guys up front on both sides of the ball, and so I care about all the players, and I'll go over and watch the DBs, but I certainly can't sit there and talk to them about their back pedal at an elite level. I can talk about O-line and D-line play, and I can talk about linebacker play. So I let my coaches coach. But I like to just kind of be around those guys. It just, to me, it's just when you have a great O-line and D-line and they're the right guys, the whole vibe in the locker room's different. You know, you have kind of that rugged team that you want. And, you know, part of it for me is I don't think the ways that we won at Temple will help us win here. I don't think the ways that we won at Baylor will help us win here. I need to figure out how to win here. And the same core philosophies of this, you know, there, but, you know, I've been outside and felt the wind a couple times. You know, I walked out in the field yesterday when the ice was, the turf was, you know, when the college football playoff comes around in a couple of years and there's some home games I think they're going to do, you know, all right, well, let's invite some teams to come up here and play us. So building a team that can win, you know, and those are the things I learned from Coach Belichick and Mike Lombardi, you know, build a team that can win in the environment that you're in. You know, play football differently. And so that's been important to me. I think the O-line, D-line will win in these conditions.
Evan, in this first go-round with NIL for you, what did you find about its importance to recruits and your current players and how, you know, that can be an advantage for Nebraska?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously at its face, you know, every player, if I have a name, image, and likeness that can bring value to, you know, to me, I would want to capitalize on and take advantage of it. So, you know, I'm not working for free. You know, you guys aren't working for free. We all want something if we can get it. That's the original intention of it. You could see it's being misused and mishandled at a lot of places. You know, I just honestly, like I said this on TV earlier, so please forgive me, but like I'm at a point in my life where like I've kind of done some cool things. I like what I've done. I have a lot more I want to accomplish. My family's comfortable. I'm only coaching college football because I love this age group and I want to feel like I'm doing something in their lives and our staff's doing something in their lives. So I can't start that relationship off with lies. I can't start that relationship off saying, hey, I want to help you be the best man you can be, but let me go tamper with someone on someone else's roster and start it off by cheating, which is happening everywhere right now. It's saddening to me. As a guy that was in college football, to see what's happened to college football, like, you know, I walk into a school, hey, you can't talk to that junior, and I follow all those rules, but someone can call a kid on my team and say, hey, if you get in the transfer portal, I'll give you, I mean, it's sad to me. But, you know, you're hearing a lot of coaches say that. That being said, I want it done the right way for our guys. And, you know, I don't get involved in it because even in the NFL, I didn't want players looking at me saying, well, why is he making this and you're making that? By rule, I can't be involved in it. I think we have a great setup here. I think the donors and people of Nebraska and the fans are going to do right by the kids and help them be great. I think the key for me is to make sure I recruit guys who want to be here, not who want to come for, you know, the best NIL deal. I need to recruit guys who want to be here and want to be coached. And if I do that, I'll find the right guys. You know, I hope that they make great opportunities for themselves and a lot of great connections. But, you know, I'm going to try to do it the right way. I don't want divisiveness in the locker room. I think we're all seeing what it looks like for teams when you know, everyone's not getting what they're supposed to get or everything's not fair. And I don't want that for our guys either. This age group of kids, those 18 to 22 in today's society, especially after COVID, you look at mental health issues and all these things, anxiety, depression. I mean, it's skyrocketing. It's scary. Now you throw in guys going to other schools, not this school, going to other schools, and hey, if you don't play well, your money goes down, and you got to call your mom and say, you know, I mean, we're just going to ruin kids. So I think NIL is awesome. Let me say that when done right, when done professionally, and I'm so thrilled with the setup here because, like everything else, like true Nebraskans, they're going to do things the right way and to help kids, not to take advantage of kids.
Evan Blaine, Omaha World Herald. Just big picture, how do you balance being a program that develops with the transfer pool and being able to take kids out of that, and maybe they don't have the same timeline?
Yeah, you know, I think that's why one of the things I learned in the NFL is like, you have a guy for 1 year, you know, you can do some things with him. I think it's just about taking the right guys from the transfer portal. You know, we've taken some kids who have 3, 4. Now I'm so confused with COVID right now because there's COVID years and non-COVID years, but taking guys who have 3 or 4 years left so you can still work with them for a long amount of time. You know, what I don't want to do is, moving forward, have a bunch of kids that fight in my program for 4 years and then I just bring a 1-year guy in every year on top of them. You know, if we need to, we need to. It's competition, but we want to get guys here for at least 2 years, 3 years. You know, that's kind of the hope. But again, everything's on an individual basis. So, you know, I think the NFL really helped me in terms of, hey, what kind of impact can we make on a guy in a year? And, you know, I'm not here to toot our horn, but one of the things I think players, you know, they're like, all right, well, I want to go to the NFL. A lot of this staff either played in the NFL or coached in the NFL. Coach Rhule coached in the NFL. Like, when you sit in draft meetings, it's not anything like what we think it is. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you listen to the NFL Network, it's awesome, but like they're talking about psychological studies, they're talking about background stuff, they're talking about medical reports. And so my hope is that our guys, people will want to be here at the end of their careers because we kind of went through all that. And as the personnel people are trying to find all the X's to X the guy off or downgrade him, we can help turn those X's into checks and say, no, we'll vouch for this kid on this, and this. And so that will help guys in the draft process, and I think that'll bring some transfers in. If we do a really good job in recruiting, though, hopefully, we have a bunch of high school kids here for a long time as well.
How much did you see guys make that developmental turn in 1 year when you just had them for 1 year in the NFL?
I think a lot of the guys who I've had that had the like in college at Temple and Baylor, like the Hassan Reddicks and those guys, they did this, and all of a sudden it was the last year when they were really focused that they really made the turn. But I think we have, I had Curtis Samwin. Curtis is a great player, but we had some guys who just in 1 year play their best football, and so. I come back to college football from the NFL way more focused on understanding what needs to be done for these guys from a football perspective. So hopefully we can help guys, even if we have them for 6 months, help them play their best football. Sorry, someone else.
Eddie with 10-11 now here in Lincoln. You talked about getting guys to stay here in Lincoln. How big is it to get a guy like Malachi to stay?
Well, the biggest thing about Malachi is I just kind of really like him. You know what I'm saying? It's not really to me about, once everybody gets here, the stars go away and you're all just guys on the team. But I just really like Malachi. I like his family. I love his sister. I love the people around him. I love the people over at school, people at Lincoln East, So, there wasn't a guy we recruited that I was like, boy, I don't know if I'm going to like this guy. Malachi's a really cool guy. He's obviously very talented. But he cares about others, You look at, you talk about NIL. He's donating things to foster care and to helping kids, and he's just really special in that regard. So, to me, if I say that, our job with our staff is to make sure we make these guys' lives better, I love the fact that Malachi's goal in his life is to help make other people's lives better, and that's way more important to me than the 10-3 that he runs. Though I think that's pretty cool too. So. Sure.
How did you guys arrive at a player who was probably going to Arkansas State?
Well, I'll just say this to you guys. Texas Tech, Joey McGuire, one of my best friends, James Blanchard, the recruiting guy, we all come from the same tree. And so if you'll start seeing guys like Jalen Lloyd, you'll start seeing guys like Eric Fields who have Texas Tech and us because we have a system that we use, that we believe in. Eric Fields, I don't want to make promises. Everyone here is going to know who he is. He's an elite player, an excellent talent, fast, physical. I was talking to Danny Woodhead the other day. There's a big difference between great recruits and great players. Okay, sometimes they're the same thing. And Malachi's the same thing. But there's a lot of guys who are really good recruits, and there are a lot of guys who are really good players. Sometimes recruiting, how you're ranked, is really a function of what you were in 10th grade. You go to the camps, you're 6'3", 220. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm always looking for the kid that's kind of getting to be a senior, and I'm looking for him to take off. It's hard to do. We'll have a really good recruiting class next year. We'll be kind of close to full. This year was so much fun because we got to watch everyone's senior tape. It's the way Coach Osborne was able to do it, the way Coach Solich was able to do it, where they could watch guys' senior tape and see what kind of player they were. Then everyone started offering kids in 9th grade, and it changed. This has been fun for me. But Fields, we watch tape all day long. Evan Cooper's the absolute best I've ever been around. If we ever offer a guy that no one's heard of, it's Evan, because he stays up at night and texts me at 3 o'clock in the morning watching this guy, watching that guy. And I think what you'll start to see is probably that we'll offer guys that no one's heard of, and then they'll start getting 10, 11, 12 offers, and their stars will bump up. And that's not disrespectful to anybody. It's just people will know that Coop goes and finds guys, and we're not afraid to offer anybody. I don't care who we recruit them. If we think they're a fit, we're going to take them.
So Cooper, was he the one who found the watched tape of Fields?
Yeah. Before I took the job, I kept calling him do you think this is the right fit for us? And he was like, Coach, take the job and then call Jalen Lloyd. Take the job and then call Jalen Lloyd. We're offering. So he knew this class. And I just want to say this to the kids in Nebraska who didn't come, because there's some that we really liked. I wish them all the best. To the guys signing Division II, Division III, playing college football is awesome. All we talk about now is all this other stuff. I coached at Albright College Division III. It was one of the best years of my life. So I'm excited for all the kids playing. But from Malachi to Gunnar to Brock to Maverick to all the guys to Tristan, we got to know a bunch of really cool kids in the state. I think it's going to be really fun moving forward. Sam Sledge.
Thanks, guys.